I don't really have a intro. So hi Cove.
Hello.
Cove is a total drama YouTuber you most definitely have probably heard of before you heard of me. But in case you haven't, he's most known for his slideshow Total Drama Fan Seasons, Total Drama Next Generation, which he has done on this channel, and more recently he's been working on a Big Brother Total Drama animation adjacent style. I don't want to say same because this is actually a pretty different animation style I really enjoy, but similar total drama style elimination animated show, Reality Resort. If you're somehow here on my channel and you haven't heard of either of those things, I really hope that you could at least just go check out his stuff to see if it's for you. He'd really appreciate the support. I mean, I haven't talked to him about it. Maybe he wouldn't appreciate your support. Maybe he thinks my fans are gross or something. I don't know. But he'd probably appreciate your support. I also want to preface this interview by saying this was done, I think, just about a year ago at this point, so I didn't ask a ton about Reality Resort because not a lot was out about it yet. The first episode wasn't out. I'm not even sure the cast was out at this point. I think the only thing that was officially out when I did this interview was the name Reality Resort and the premise of the season. I did still end up asking Cove some questions about Reality Resort, but this interview is mostly not pertaining to that. It's more so just talking about Cove, as a creator, experience on YouTube, and I found it really interesting to talk to him. Cove is someone who his channels just ooze with passion. He's so insightful, he's so smart, he's so introspective. I really enjoyed talking to him, and I hope you enjoyed this interview. What If will be out next week? Still working on it. It's a doozy. Let's get into video. Cove. How did you begin as a total drama YouTuber?
Old drama YouTuber. How did I begin? It kind of just started when I was in middle school.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's a
long time
while
ago now.
ago.
That makes me feel old. I just remember sitting in my living room on one of our swivel chairs, and I just had my laptop out, and I was just obsessed with teledrama, and I wanted to
Mm.
make my own versions of it. And I was like, oh, I love this. I didn't know at the time, but I just loved the elimination format. And I just loved, I like cartoons. And I fell in love with the show. I don't really remember when, but I do remember specific memories of me just sitting on my laptop in my living room, just on Keynote, PowerPoint for Mac computers, and just making these characters slide around the screen and making the most outrageous text boxes you can imagine from a middle schooler,
Yeah.
and just then uploading them to YouTube because I was like, why not, right? I'm not just going to make these for myself. No really aspirations to do anything with it other than just be like, yeah, this is my way. This is how I would do it. Even though looking back, those my ways were really just another way. They were never truly my way. They're terrible
I
versions,
mean,
but
you're in middle school, so I give you a
yeah.
leeway for that.
Like a Lindsay and Tyler finale, like who wants that in Island? Like what? Yeah, I just did that. All of a sudden, I'm finishing the first season of Island, and then I'm like, oh, I should do action, and then I do action, and then by like I don't know how long it took after that, but pretty much just like okay, I'm done, and I just lost the motivation. A couple years later, like 2 or 3 years later, once Packet 2 Island came out, I got back around into it, and then the rest is history after that.
Wow, that's interesting. It definitely shows the age time of when we got into it because when Packet 2 Island came out was around the time I stopped watching Total Drama. Because I was like,
No,
I
there
way
you go.
into it when I was a child, and then Packet 2 Island came out, and I just kind of took a break, and I didn't watch or do anything with Total Drama for like 9, 8 years. And then I recently started getting back into my channel and then doing all this. I'm still kind of like new to all this total drama. I've never really explored it much. I'm trying to just like figuring it out as I go.
It's a fun show to speculate on because there's
Yeah.
infinite possibilities. It's just so much fun to speculate on, so much fun to make your own versions for, just so many possibilities for the characters. So unfortunately, I have not stopped thinking about this show for like over a decade at this point.
That's
I wish I had your I wish I had your background on it and not being so obsessed with the show as I have been. But
I definitely see what you're talking about with the elimination stuff. I didn't realize I was really into that sort of thing, but especially for
mhm,
like the type of content I do, where I'm a lot of like character analysis, theorizing what's going to happen, story wise.
mhm,
Having a show where like you already have everything kind of set in place, so even if something changes radically, you still know what's going to happen. Like every episode, someone's going to be
right.
eliminated. So even if something crazy happens, I still have a foundation of what I'm following.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah,
The total
it's
drama community has evolved a lot since I've been involved in it. Nowadays, it's like there's a new wave of creators that has come with the reboot seasons that I'm really happy to see. Like I've like Dawn's Bubbles one person that I've seen pop off, and
yeah.
I'm just like I mean it's great to see. It's great to see people provide their own voice and give their own take on the series because I'm so used to talking to my circle for the last 5 or 6 years. So it's just great to have new people in the space.
It's a really interesting time to be a Total Drama fan again, because I got into it like 6 months right before the new seasons were coming out. I just hit the
I know
perfect wind of time to
you
start
did.
coming back and start having like new things to talk about for everybody.
That's like the main thing that's been, I guess, for lack of a better word, a slog within the community has just been the lack of new and interesting topics to discuss with people. Before the reboot was announced and while Dramarama was airing, like we just talked about the same three things as like the love triangle, how bad All Stars and Pocket 2 is, and then throw in something about how someone needs to be redeemed or fixed. And it's kind of just like those three topics on repeat. It's just nice to have something
Yeah.
else to talk about within the context of the show.
That's the main reason why I was so surprised when I made my first video, because I wasn't really aware that Total Drama was still alive. I didn't know the community still existed, really.
It's
Because I
it's
knew it was
big and
like
it's
6 years.
expansive.
Yeah, I knew it was like 6 years since the last season came out. I was like, really? I didn't think it was going to be that big. But then I made my video and it did well, and I looked into it more. I was like, holy shit, there's still people doing this, and there's still people talking about it.
The show has
I
not
really
died.
thought it did,
And
and I came and I just found out it was alive. It just like moved towns or something. Like it wasn't in my world, but it's very much still alive, just outside of my realm. How much planning goes into creating new characters and seasons beforehand?
is this referring to like next generation content?
Yeah, mainly referring to Next Generation.
I don't really have a tried and true method to how I do things because I've always said, and my mantra has been like, this has just been a hobby for me, and I don't want to. This already takes up way too much of my time as is. Trying to pursue that into an actual job now, like while it's maintained as a hobby, I'm pretty intentional about knowing that I can't put as much effort as I want to into this if I still want to maintain relationships, if I want to maintain a job, if I want to do other things with my time. My methods are not really I would say good methods, but I do have a plan, or I do usually have like a system of how I do things. How much planning goes into creating new characters? A lot. With my character specifically, I try to pull, and specifically with Next Generation, I'll start with. I tried to pull from a lot of inspiration from my life, and I think that goes for a lot of writers when they're creating characters. They first look to people in their life, and specifically with Total Drama, and I'd stay pretty true to Total Drama and its themes and its kind of style with Next Generation. I tried to think of stereotypes as well. You kind of try to merge the two. So you try to think of stereotypes and then you try to think of people in your life. And if they go hand in hand, perfect. If they don't, you got to pick one or the other. And some storylines were even presented or represented, sorry, within those characters and their relation to me.
Real life inspiration, I think I vaguely do with what I do. I don't do it nearly as much as you probably do because yours is just a lot more thorough and well thought out. But around the time I had started making my content of like what ifs, I recently just had gone out of therapy and I learned I'm also taking psychology stuff and I want to be a psychology major.
Okay, awesome.
So I already knew a lot of stuff about like why humans make decisions, and I wanted to explore that more. Kind of how I go with what ifs, where I'm like trying to examine what characters do. A lot of my process very often, like a lot of times when I get stuck on something, it's usually like, what does a character do in a certain situation? Because I have to put myself in someone else's shoe, in someone's perspective that I don't understand at all. Because I also struggle a lot of empathy of like understanding other people's positions. I've struggled with that for a large part of my life. But what if is something where you have to, like, even if they're a dumb character, you just have to fully get rid of all logic and sense. Or if they're a purely logical character, you have to get rid of all emotion and go purely logical, and then what kind of logic applies to them. And a lot of times when I'm writing and I stop writing and I get caught lost or behind, I'll just sit there for like an hour trying to think of what would this person do. I pace around my room 1,000 times asking why they would do things. I look at their wiki, try to figure out personal things about them. I look at things they did in previous episodes, figure out why they make those decisions. And that definitely makes it harder sometimes when I have to just sometimes accept it's a children's cartoon and sometimes characters aren't written that well, so they don't really have a rhyme or reason.
And honestly, as long as you can accept that, that's something that's taken me a long time to accept because I feel like not to go on a slight tangent, but I feel like I've sort of outgrown not my liking for the show, but what I'm looking for, I know Total Drama is not going to give me anymore because I've matured. I've evolved as a person and my interests, and I know that Total Drama at the end of the day is a preteen kind of show, children's show. What I'm looking for as a 25-year-old dude is not what a 12-year-old's going to care about. That's like it's a big thing to realize and learn, is that at the end of the day, like, you can be as logical and try to think something through as much as you can. And that's where, I also have a background in psychology, so it's definitely helpful. But also just realizing that, at the end of the day, this is a cartoon show and they're limited to 22 minutes of storytelling, and you kind of just got to take what you have and use it. So I'm totally with you.
So in Total Drama, it's very common in the show for seasons to have alternate winners for their finalists. However, your seasons have a very clear canon winner moving on in the series. Was having alternate winners ever a consideration by you, and why did you decide to go with canon winners?
a great question, and that's something I get a lot. And I don't think we as a community really talk about alternate winners as much as we maybe should. But I'm a fan. I'm not a fan, sorry, of alternate winners, and it was a conscious decision to not do alternate winners. I never thought about it. I never wanted to do it. I totally understand why Total Drama does it. I understand the appeal to have different endings. Some people root for one of the finalists, other people root for the other one. They want to see both of them win. Totally cool. I get it from that perspective. It's a children's show, whatever. In my version of it, of this show, and the ways that I like to write, I feel like it totally negates the fulfillment in the finale when you're going into this episode knowing both of them win, right? Like, at the end of the day, both of them are technically winners. No matter what version you end up seeing, I do think it takes away a little bit from both of those characters' penultimate or ultimate arcs and their stories and their purpose in the season. And it feels like at least for one of them, it just doesn't matter, or it didn't really matter in the grand scheme because both of them ended up winning. So there's no really repercussions for the other one, and especially because it ruins continuity going into the future seasons. And that's something that I think Total Drama has struggled with because of the alternate winners.
I can totally see that. I personally am someone who likes alternate winners. I just think it creates more variety in what you do, but I definitely can see what you're saying about it, like interfering with character arcs. Like, I don't want to spoiler too much, but I mean, you probably don't care if I spoil one of my videos here, right? It's not like you're gonna go for my entire channel, and my audience has probably seen this video anyway. But in case you haven't, spoiler for the winners of What If. Chris assigned the teams correctly, Revenge of the Island into All Stars, but the finalists for that were Courtney and Brick. And I had basically made a very clear plot with Courtney that season where she was doing through a lot of character growth because Dakota was helping her realize who she was and become less dependent on herself to do things and be more willing to open to other people. And forgiving Gwen and Duncan, I had very intentional things of her wanting to become not so self-reliant, because that's a very big theme we see of Courtney. So in the finale, I really felt like it was more fitting to the story that was being told the entire season that Courtney wins. Obviously, I had to entertain the other idea, which Brick wins, because I wanted to have alternate winners just because I want my what ifs to match the show. So that's definitely like a struggle I had of like, I needed to kind of avert what I felt like my story was building to just entertain the idea of an alternate winner. Now look back at it, I think a lot of times when I have alternate winners, I always think like, how am I going to have this other person win and make it feel satisfying? But it kind of broadens my perspective on what winning necessarily means to each individual person. Courtney not winning actually might prove her arc better, because her whole arc was, I need to win, believe in myself and win and work on it as a goal. So to maybe have her actually not win in some sense might actually be better for her arc, because she doesn't have to win to be happy. She loses, but she still makes it to the end. She still changes. It's kind of, I've changed a lot in it, because when I first started doing What Ifs, having alternate winners always just felt such like a chore. I get to the end and I didn't know how to make it feel like they could both have a legitimate reason for winning. But now that I've kind of had to force myself to make people I don't even like winning to win, it's kind of broadened my perspective on it. But I definitely understand, especially like future season writing, how that having canon winners definitely helps.
I think you make good points too. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I think it obviously just comes down to personal preference. But like you were saying with Courtney, like I always, when I go to write my seasons, I always have a clear cut winner and a clear cut runner up, and I know that I need to make those storylines differ because the runner up's not winning and the winner's not losing. So I'm like, I have a story in mind for them, and to me it's like I don't ever think about the potential of what if the runner up won. There are some characters who are arcs and whose personalities just do them more justice if they didn't win, and so giving them the potential to win by having alternate winners, it would feel very forced, and or their arc was unsatisfying. But yeah, I think that's why I really liked when they made Priya the canon winner of season 1, the reboot, because I'm like, okay, you're establishing continuity, and it's great, because then it set up the whole like one of season 2 where Caleb's interest in her. So I think it was really interesting. It was very what's the word I'm looking for? I always just lose words when I need them. I felt good. I felt good. I felt good about the fact that Priya was canonically the winner.
It was interesting that the new season actually went with canonical winners. I wasn't against it, but it was interesting to see that change. I do have one question though about alternate winners for you. Because for every one of your seasons you have a canon winner, but the only exception to that really is Legends. Where fuck, I forgot their names. Wait, no, it was Jay and Megan, right? Jay and Megan made it to the end, and there's alternate winnings of either they both win together and they share the win, or Jay wins or Megan wins. So what was the idea behind having alternate winners for that?
So for Legends, it was supposed to be the ending of the series. It was supposed to be this big grand
Mm.
finale, and them winning together was a myriad of reasons. I think it felt thematically correct. I think it did both of them justice for characters. I also think I just had a really difficult time picking which one I'd rather win. That also played a big role because at that point, that was like the only season where I'm just like, I actually don't. Both of them benefit from winning. Both of them benefit from losing. It's an all-star season. It's a very strategic season. While there is development going on, I didn't really feel like one of them deserved it over the other too much. And it was also a callback to the last season of the My Way series that I did, where that season, the concluding catastrophe, those two finalists also won together. They split the money. So it was a callback to that for all the OG fans. I just wanted to give something to the people who like alternate endings and be like, here's a little. I didn't treat them seriously at all. I'm just like, here's how Jay won. Then he just like shoots the helicopter or something. I don't know. And then like, here's how Megan won. She rides Harambe. Like it's just like random things that didn't really make much sense. But I'm just gonna appease the people who I know like alternate endings.
How do you feel like aging and maturing in your real life affects your ability to work with your characters?
Any person would say this, like the older you get, the more experiences you have, the more things in life you go through, the more you know. Like, you get wisdom when you grow older, you get experience, you mature as a person, you change your beliefs, the way you think about things. And that's kind of, I've taken that approach for sure in how I write, the things I want to write about, the characters I like to write, the kind of content I like to do, et cetera, et cetera. I've been able to experience more as I've gotten older, which means I've also experienced and met new people. Like for the Reality Project specifically, there's characters that I have already planned in the future who are people that I met this year, last year. Obviously, when I'm 15, I'm a completely different person than when I'm 25.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of differences in the way I think about the world and people. It's always great to keep learning and growing, and that's something that I'm definitely trying to do as I'm continuing this hobby, hoping to turn it into a job.
Yeah, interesting. I mainly asked that because
Sorry, I was just taking a drink and coughing.
so rude to cough during my answer, even in silence. Yeah, I mainly have that question because I'm 17 right now, which is not that old. And I always think like how my channel is going to change when I get older. And especially like, as I said earlier, like how if I wrote what I wrote now when I was 15, it definitely I would delete it because I'd be greatly ashamed of what I'd have to say and what I'd have to write about. I didn't feel like I fully understood how to make things definitely unbiased. That's something I struggle a lot with now even. But like, I don't want to continue things where it goes poorly, but I just kind of have to and hope that somehow it's going to be something I enjoy. As I've just matured over those 2 years, which was 15 to 17, which isn't much maturing really, but over those 2 years, I had learned like to accept the things that I couldn't change and be okay with things even if I don't love them, and be okay with things even if they're not perfect in my vision, because often what you see in your vision isn't fully what reality is going to look like. I'm just curious how my writing, I guess, is going to change. So I guess it was a nice opportunity to talk to someone who's already kind of had that experience.
No, that was very profound. Well, I mean, that's a big reason why my videos are unlisted, my way videos.
Yeah,
Because they're embarrassing AF. Like they're cringe. They're terrible. Like I
checked
don't
them
agree with
out.
anything.
They were interesting. They were fun.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want that to be on my public channel. It's sad because I reference it so much in Next Generation, which means I can't really detach the My Way series at all from it. And I know people like to go back and watch it for who knows what reason, nostalgia maybe. But that's why I haven't privated them. I just unlisted them. But it's tough. So good on you for having that realization, because it took me a long time to realize like, yeah, I don't really vibe with these 13-year-old videos anymore.
How do you decide when it's a time to make changes to the future of your seasons, whether it's adding new characters or starting with a new cast or moving out of a different sort of format? Most recently, to decide to switch out of a slideshow to something more intricate, like animated.
That's a good question. I think, my Next Generation series was so easily and obviously influenced by the format and structure of Canon Told Drama. I followed it pretty much to a T. For the first 3 seasons, went from 3 different locations. One of them was on an island. Changed the cast size each season. People did compete, but kept the same cast. Had 2 newbies in the 3rd season. Had 3 teams. Right, like that was pretty obvious with how I was copying Total Drama. But when I came back, after I took like a year off between season 3 and 4, I knew I wanted to break away from that. At that point, I went through some changes in my life. I changed colleges. I went back home, so I had more time. Different perspective, like your previous question about maturing and aging, influencing the way that I work with my characters and just writing writing in general, I kind of got to the point where I'm like, okay, I want to do something different. Felt like I was creatively crippled with trying to follow total drama, and I aspired to do more, to have more originality and creativity in that way. So it really just came down to seeing what the audience wanted. I put out 2 videos asking for my fans to be like, okay, what do you want to see? What's the cast size? What's the episode amount? New characters, old characters? What's the theme? What do you want it to be about? I'm totally fair game. And so for that season, that's kind of how it started. And then afterwards, I did a new cast, and then I did like an all-star season, and then I did another season to wrap up the series. And for me, it's kind of just realizing the first cast I had only written 3 seasons for, like in mind. Like I knew a lot of them had 3-season arcs, some of them had 2-season arcs. To me, a lot of the times when I make new characters, I am a big planner of the future. I like to know what they could do in the future, especially if they don't win the season. I've gotten to a point where I'm kind of over the total drama format of 3 seasons in a row with new characters, or the same characters, sorry, and then 2 seasons or 3 seasons of new characters, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And this is reflected in the reality project where I want to see separate casts. I don't want to see the same people 3 times in a row. And I think the reboot seasons of Island have also cemented this in me, because after 2 seasons of those characters, I'm sick of them already, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm a little bit over them. So I think the way to weave those naturally, like the multi-season arcs with new casts, is how I ultimately ended up with the Reality Gauntlet, 3 seasons with different casts, followed by a all-star season, basically, from those 3 casts. And then moving forward, same thing. Cycle repeats, 3 new casts, all-stars, repeat, etc. So that's kind of like where I've gotten to as a writer, because I do feel like it's hard to use the same characters, especially because in Next Gen, I use the same characters 4 seasons in a row. Not all of them, but like 4 seasons in a row is a lot to use the same characters in an elimination-based format.
So what was the process and thought behind having singing scenes in your episodes during earlier seasons?
I love musicals. Unironically, I grew up, my dad was, the breadwinner in the family, so I was left with my mom and my sister a lot, and kind of just at the mercy of whatever they wanted to watch. And I think I was primed to I was exposed to a lot of Disney musicals, singing, etc., whatever.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of like all kinds of music, except for like rap. Really, I love like Bo Burnham, Scotty Sire, Tom Cardy, like people who take mundane and random topics and contort them into song. And so I love World Tour. World Tour has a super nostalgic place in my heart, especially for the songs. And so I just really wanted to cultivate like a singing episode in each season, just because I really think it's fun to incorporate random things into song like that and provide a different sort of storytelling. Yeah, I think it's really fun. I plan on having musical episodes in every season I do of anything. So
I definitely had a bit of a similar upbringing where I had siblings which were mostly sisters, but I think interestingly enough, I'm kind of the opposite of you, where I was constantly exposed to musicals and Disney, a lot of Taylor Swift, a lot of Katy Perry, and that kind of in turn made me not like music as much because I never had a choice over that. So it's interesting how yours went a very different direction. I like songs now. I'm a teenager, so I'm really into all the cool songs, really not anything metal or heavy or deep at all. It's all very girl pop, and I did like seeing the music scenes, especially the earlier seasons, but I don't think it was for the reason that you probably wanted me to. I thought they were cringy. It was an interesting...
Oh, they're so cringy.
Yeah.
I didn't have any, I just took people from my friend group and community who was like, hey, you guys want to sing? And they were just like, okay. And I didn't really care how good it was.
I could never ever do that. I could never sing on camera. I think I'd actually rather end my channel before I do that. You've been doing a very similar type of fan-made seasons for about the last 5 or so years with the slideshow animations. And now with the reality project, it appears you're trying to make a really big stride in a different way, proper animation and voice actors. What has it been like to work on these new season with such a different style than what you've been accustomed to?
It's been a lot of learning, a lot of evolving as a creator, just realizing and understanding what actually happens within the animation industry and all of the small, minute details and steps with these PowerPoints, right? It's kind of just, all right, outline the script, write the script, get all the assets I need, put them on a PowerPoint slide, put music to it, end the story. But with this animation and going to this field, it's like, okay, you got a storyboard, animatic, animation, music, sound effects, lighting, compositing, rendering, script and voiceover. There's like so many other facets, and I have to manage and organize a pipeline for a team of people, like a pretty large team of people at this point. And it's a lot more difficult. I'm used to working alone. With Next Generation, I did literally everything by myself. I scripted, I edited, whatever. Having to work with all these people is definitely a learning curve for me. It's also a lot more rewarding and a lot more satisfying to see what would have been like two poses to for a scene with my PowerPoints is actually like way more emotion and expression that haven't been able to really express with my stories. And I'm really thankful that the people who've been on this project have been working with me and have been so willing to work on this. It's a lot more work, but it's also going to be a lot more satisfying, I think, in the end. And I'm hoping that it becomes something even bigger than I could dream of, but we'll see.
It's very admirable that you're taking, because animation, I have friends who actually do some minor animation. It sounds like hell. Everything I hear from it, every time I hear someone talk about it, it sounds worse than what I thought it sounded like before. And I do think animation will definitely open up creative ability you'll have with expressing your message and expressing your season and your story. And I'm genuinely mean this. I'm not saying this because you're my guest and I have to be nice to you. I'm genuinely really excited to see what comes out of it. And I'm definitely going to follow along. It's not like we're talking to anybody, people who watch a video or anything, but if I was watching this conversation, I'd probably subscribe to your channel and stay tuned for that.
Oh, you mean the reality project?
Subscribe to both of them. I'll put them both there. I mean, no one's watching, of course, but if it was there on the screen right now, I do it. Oh wait, should I say goodbye now?
That's all for now.
All right, that's good. Yeah, bye bye. I'll leave it at that.